अगर मीट होगा 2 मिनट रुको. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Within 2 minutes, we begin our program.
No problem. Let other people join.
Good morning. Good morning. Mhm. Good morning. Good morning. Very good morning to all of you. Am I audible? Am I audible? Am I visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We begin our program now. Hmm. So we begin our program now. I welcome you all uh, on this occasion of free online NET coaching program. Free online NET coaching program. Uh, Let me begin with myself because there are those who are from Gujarat and our students. They know me, but those who are from other states, they don't know me. I'm Pranav Dave. I completed my MA in 1988 and joined Balasinor Arts and Commerce College, where I served for 3 years and 2 months. Then I joined Petlad for 10 months. Then I came to Nalini and Arvind Arts College, Vidyanagar, where I served for 2 years and 6 months. And since 1995, I am with the department. So my MPhil is on James Joyce and my PhD is on Milan Kundera. There are four people in the department. Dr. Parul Popat is the head of the department and she is professor and head of the department. I am associate professor. There is my colleague Dr. Piyush Rawal. He is also associate professor. And then there is Manish Solanki. He is also associate professor. So we four run the department. And for the first time, our madam thought of having this kind of program of free online NEET coaching program. Now, we wanted to do something for our students. And we thought that now NEET is compulsory and student has to clear the NEET. We thought of this program. And total registration for this program is 748 and of 748 77% participants, that is 577 from Gujarat, on an average 3 to 5 from all the other states of India. There are 72% female participants and 27% male participants. 50% are PG students, 10% UG students, 20% faculty members, and 18% researchers. So we have to begin our program with a shloka, and I invite Kushi to recite a shloka, and then we will begin our program. Kushi Patel,
Yes, sir.
you recite the shloka.
Yes. या देवी सर्वभूतेषु विद्यारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः.
Thank you, Kushi. Now, this is rather an ambitious program, and Honorable Vice Chancellor was to join with us, but today he is busy. So we have Dr. A.H. Hasmani, Head and Professor, Department of Mathematics, Sardar Patel University. So I welcome you, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Niranjan Patel, who is who worked as Professor and Head of Sanskrit Department, is the Vice Chancellor and a very well-read person in the field of Sanskrit. And whenever we have approached him, he has always positively taken all our steps and responded very warmly to all our endeavors. And in this, he is also with us. That is what he has conveyed to us. So now we request Dr. H. Hasmani, sir, to say something on this occasion to our participants, and I hand over to Dr. H. Hasmani. Hasmani, sir. Dr. Hasmani, your mic is, yes.
Yeah, I have unmuted. First of all, let me thank the Department of English, Sardar Patel University, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this inaugural program. Respected Professor Dave sir, Parul madam, and other colleagues in Department of English, and the most important stakeholder of the workshop, dear student friends. Let me first congratulate the department for thinking of such a nice program of giving training to the students for clearing NET. It is heartening to note that a very large number of participants have registered for this program. And I'm sure that you will get benefit out of it. So I also congratulate the participants for choosing to invest your vacation you have chosen to invest your vacation in this important program. Dear participants, you must be aware of importance of NET. NET, UGC NET has threefold benefits. It can help you in getting a handsome scholarship for doing PhD. That is, if you qualify for JRF, then you will get a very handsome scholarship for doing PhD. It is nearly equal to salary of an assistant professor. In the second category, if you cannot clear NET with JRF, then you must be knowing that you can have an opportunity to get it for assistant professorship. The second category of NET is for assistant professorship. It is called NET L, because earlier the nomenclature was lecturer. So NET L. And the third one, recently introduced by UGC, is for getting PhD itself. Once you have cleared NET, even in the third category, we hope that the standard will be below the assistant professorship. So if you qualify through NET, you can apply for PhD in any university across India. No need to appear in the respective PhD entrance test. Please excuse me, because I am joining from a mobile phone, and many calls I am receiving. So in between there may be interruption. Anyway, you will get a good training for clearing NET. This will ignite your efforts to prepare for NET, because in very short time of it is 2 weeks, right? In 2 weeks, you will get a sort of ignition. So you will ignite your efforts for doing clearing NET. That is an important part. if you continue with the same efforts, you will get, surely you will clear the net. So my best wishes to all the candidates, all the participants. Once again, I congratulate English department. I'm thankful to you for giving me this opportunity to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for highlighting the importance of NEET examination, that the students have to clear NEET examination first. It has been our experience that every year we have some 20 to 25 students who are very good and we left them to their fate. But after that, we thought that if we can come out with this kind of program of online teaching, we can help them. So students read literature, but they read literature according to their mood. So someone is interested in Latin American literature, someone is interested in only English literature, someone is interested in American literature. That is how they went about it. But then, they did not have a complete overview of any particular literature written in particular language. So we have to guide them. American literature or Indian writing in English or Indian English literature. So our expectations are high from the student that they join us and they learn something from the experts. So far as the luminaries are concerned, we have here, a very wonderful galaxy of very great professors. For example, for students, paper one is very difficult. So we have thought of paper one first. And in that, Professor Paresh Joshi, Department of English, Veer Narmad University, then Chirag Adatiya, Dr. Prashant Patel, Dr. Akar Rohelia, Dr. Rupal Vasant, Dr. Rajnikant Dodia, Dr. Preeti Sajja, Professor Kashmira Mehta, Dr. Maulik Vyas, Dr. Abhigya Sajja, Dr. Bhakti Vaishnav, Dr. Mayur Parmar, Dr. Bhaskar Pandya, and Dr. Alka Megwan. This many professors or associate professors will deal with paper one, and their session will be from 10:30 to 12:30 every day, and they will teach them how to deal with paper one. So far as other papers are concerned, we have Dr. Balaji Ranganathan, Dr. R.K. Mandalia, Dr. Kamal Mehta, Professor Hitesh Ravia, Professor Ravi Zala, Professor Hetal Patel, Professor Hemendra Chandalia, Dr. Atanu Bhattacharya, Professor Sulbha Natrajan, Sabir Parmar, Dr. Sabir Parmar, Dr. Sahadev Luhar, Varna Bharti, Dr. Priyanka Jani, Professor Sunil Shah, Dr. Deepak Bhatt, Dr. Ajay Patel. Such professors will deal with the second paper. So we have been fortunate enough to contact all these professors, and all the professors have responded positively. And so we have a very big line of learned people and they will certainly help the students understand paper 1 and 2. Okay, so this is what we have thought. So with this, we will begin our program, and the first in the line is Professor Paresh Joshi, and we'll see. Okay, so this is the menu for the students, and today we will begin our session at almost 11:15 with Dr. Paresh Joshi, okay, who is a professor in Veer Narmad South Gujarat University and a friend of department as well. So students are requested to listen to the lectures given by the professors. They are requested to keep a note on whatever they say, okay, and we expect them to put questions to the professor, and we want them to go to the examination hall of NEET exam without any problem. So whatever your problems are, please kindly tell us what your problems are, and we try to solve them. So with this, I think I stop here, and we will start at 11:15 with uh, the lecture of Dr. Paresh Joshi. Thank you very much. Now, on this occasion, on behalf of the department, on behalf of the university, on behalf of uh, my colleagues, I thank Dr. H. Hasmani for remaining present and highlighting, the importance of NEET exam, which has become very important for the students. I also thank my colleagues who have helped me arrange this program, and especially I thank Benedict and Anjuman for uh, arranging all this on computer. I'm computer-wise illiterate. I don't know how to work on computer, but they know it and they make it easy for us. So I thank them for that. We meet at 11:15. Thank you very much.
Audio now on music alert.
Hello.
Audio now on news alert.
Hello. Is it over now, sir? Can we leave the meeting, sir? Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Is it audible, sir?
Sarvagiri Goswami is there. Telephone.
Yeah. Sir.
Hello, Sarvagiri Goswami.
Yes, sir.
May I speak? May I speak with you?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Hello.
Yeah. Is
Huh.
it audible, sir? Can you hear me?
We continue with our program, and Sarvagiri Goswami. Hi, yes, audible. Am I audible?
Yes, yes. But there is a delay, so there might be, you might be hearing my voice after a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds. I'm sorry. So there is a delay of voice. So let me just mute myself, sir.
Yes, I can hear you. So we start with Sarvagiri Goswami and Jimal Patel. हाँ. 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 पुनः ये तो मोल्ट Yes, I hand over to Khushi Patel for the time being. Khushi,
Yes, sir.
am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
So you introduce him.
Yeah, sir. So now
Okay.
I would like to invite our peer achiever Jimal Patel, who achieved a gold medal at the graduate as well as the postgraduate level of his academic career. He has cleared his NET and GSET in 2022 and 2023 respectively. Currently, he is serving as an assistant professor at D.D. Thakkar Arts and K.J. Patel Commerce College, Khed Brahma. Sir, kindly take the mic and please provide your insights to the students.
Thank you so much, Khushi Patel. First of all, I would like to thank Parul ma'am and Dave sir for inviting me in this meeting to share my experience with UGC NET examination. I passed GSET in 2021 and NET in 2023. GSET I passed in the first attempt, but it took me 3 attempts to clear NET. So I have some ideas and observations regarding the questions that are asked in these examinations and the kind of preparation that is needed to crack them, which I would like to share with all the NET aspirants gathered here. So let me first tell you how I prepared for these examinations. The first step, obviously, the first steps towards the preparation is collecting the right and authentic reference books. For paper 1, I used this book, Teaching and Research Aptitude by KVS Madan from Pearson publication. This book covers all the topics that are included in paper 1 in very easy to understand method, and it also includes previous years' question papers with solutions. So for paper 1, this book was greatly helpful for me. For paper 2, there are so many options available, and it is very difficult to choose from them. But luckily, we had Dave sir to our rescue, and he gifted us students probably almost all the must-read essential reference books for English literature students. So I'm again very grateful and thankful to Dave sir. Now, it goes without saying that one cannot cover all the reference books in the limited time that is provided to one before the examination starts. But I would like to talk about a few of them which I read from, made notes from, and which were greatly helpful for me in the preparation for NET examinations. So first, for paper 2, for British literature, I read from this book, A History of English Literature by Edward Albert. It covers the period from Old English literature up to the first half of the 20th century British literature. Then for Indian English literature, I read from this book, A History of Indian English Literature by M.K. Nayak. I actually enjoyed reading this book, and it, especially in GSET, many questions were asked from this book. For American literature, I used this book, A Short History of American Literature by Krishna Sen and Ashok Sen Gupta. And for literary and cultural theory, I used Contemporary Literary and Cultural Theory by Pramod K. Nair. Now, when it comes to theory, the language is very clumsy and tiresome, but Pramod K. Nair covers all the major theories from structuralism to eco-criticism in a very lucid and enjoyable language. So that was a rare quality of this book. I strongly recommend reading the introduction from this book, Beginning Theory, which was again gifted by DoE sir, by Peter Berry. The introduction to this book covers why theory is needed and all the what is the importance of theory in a very enjoyable and lucid way. So I recommend reading the introduction to this book. And lastly, a glossary of literary terms. So I prepared for 2 years from these many books. There are many books which are left unread, but this shows that if we read few books but read them properly, we can achieve success. Now, I would like to emphasize that while preparing for NET and GSET, only reading is not important. Reading the chapters, rereading them, making diligent notes, revisiting the chapters time and again, this boring process is absolutely necessary in order to retain this much amount of information in our heads. Otherwise, only a hazy impression remains and it doesn't help much. Now, let me come to my experience with the questions that are asked in these examinations. So now, no simple who done it, who wrote it questions are asked. These questions are specifically designed to waste our time. So we need to be absolutely focused on the questions and we need to have a calm head because we have 180 minutes for 150 questions. So we hardly get 1.5 minutes for each question. So we have to be very focused and we cannot afford to be lethargic while giving answers to these questions. And one important thing I did in this year's NET, in 2023 NET exam is that I left the mathematical questions for later to be solved, and I went ahead with paper 2 very soon. And this helped me to complete the comprehension questions, which are, I think, are our opportunity to score more marks in paper 2. It gave me more time for comprehension questions, and later on I could complete the mathematical questions very quickly, and in this way I could pass the NET examination in 2023. So this was all I had to say. Again, I thank Parul ma'am and DoE sir for inviting me, and I wish all the aspirants all the success in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, proceeding further, I would like to invite Goswami sir, who graduated from Saurashtra University and received the degree of post-graduation from Veer Narmad South Gujarat University. He qualified GSET and NET with JRF and currently pursuing PhD on the basis of JRF at English Department of VNSGU. Sir, please provide the guidance to the students.
Hello? Hello? Is it? Hello, is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Wait, video. Okay. So, hello and good morning to all of you, the next aspirant. I'm Goswami Sarjugiri pursuing my PhD from Veer Narbad Sahas Gujarat University on the basis of JRF. And if I just talk about my experience and what kind of difficulties and what kind of questions did I face during the examination and how did I prepare for the UGC NET. And let me just go through that experience directly, because that many of the books and the references and what to read, what not to read has already been discussed by my previous panelist. So let me not go through that, and what kind of things should be taken into the consideration. Let me just go through that directly. So I'm saying for qualifying NET examination, the paper 1 is must. It is very crucial for getting more marks. It can be helpful in getting JRF as well. So in paper 1, there are 10 units, and each unit will be covering 5 questions. So if one person is very weak in mathematics, reasoning, so I would say that even leave that kind of questions first and go for the another questions. I think you people will be having the examination offline. We had examination online, so you will be having another difficulties, like in rounding that, filling up that OMR sheets and all. So I would say that if you will be able to save time as much as possible, if there will be time to even recheck that paper again, so it will be beneficial to you. And if it is possible, if you people will be allowed to go through the second paper directly without even seeing the first paper, so go through the second paper first. And after completing second paper, you can come back to first paper. So it will also save the time and save the energy, because these data interpretation questions, reasoning questions, it will take much time, and it will actually troublesome and add some questions also. So it will also, after seeing the question, you may also lose your confidence. So I would always suggest to go through that literature questions first. And then in literature, I would suggest that read everything and anything chronologically. If you just started reading, so don't jump in between here and there. Just start from the very beginning. If you're just reading the literature, then just start from history. And if you're just started reading the criticism, just start from the even Plato before Plato, Socrates, start from there only and read chronologically. So it will help you in remembering age, writer's name, work's name, and publication dates. So you will be able to mark that chronological questions right. And I would say that make your notes. If you're reading in any books, let's say, for example, if literary theory or any books you're reading, just make your note in such a way that it will be very useful to just go through it just before the exam. Just prepare your note in such a way that you can easily go through it before the exam. And other than that, create another kind of notes, like from the very beginning, from the Chaucer or even before Chaucer, Geoffrey of Monmouth, these kind of writer, just write the writer's name, their work's name, publication names, and important works, the characters of important works, and just go through it just before the exam. And it can also be done in literary criticism as well, or literary theory. So just write the concepts and works name and publication names, and remember the concept, that what does it all about. So it will actually help you in boosting your confidence. In the examination, confidence is a must. Without confidence, if you will be reading the whole of the things, but if you'll just lose the confidence during the exam, I don't think so it will work. So the confidence is must. And another last things I would say that literature is something which cannot be even understood or remembered without having words with anybody or without discussing the literature with anybody. It just kind of, uh, it encompasses so many things. It's not just about the literature. We are the literature students, and we know that it encompasses history, sociology, psychology, so many things, right? So if you just discuss literature with your friends, with your teachers, with your parents, it will open up your mind, and it will give you kind of another glimpse to remember literature. So I would say make your groups and start discussing literature with your friends and others. So it will you it tremendously help to remember literature and appear for the examination and passing out with flying colors. So in my time, actually, it was the time of Corona. During the Corona, there was a nothing to be done, right? So I just spent approximately more than 8 hours, 9 hours in a day to prepare for the UGC net. So I would say that if you just want to just go through that, and if you just want to be coming up with flying colors, you will have to be dedicated with the time. There should be time management, and you will have to give your time for reading, for understanding literature. And I think that these people, net people, are just coming up with kind of questions. They are not direct questions, fact-based questions. They are questions on that how students understand literature. It will be on the level of your understanding literature. So it is must that you understand literature. That all from my side, and I'm grateful to Parul ma'am and SP University for inviting me for such a discussion on UGC net and how it can be qualified. I wish you everybody that for the examination, and I wish that everybody will be coming up with flying colors. Thank you.
Good morning. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just just 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Sarjugiri Goswami ji. Just yes, you are audible and you are visible, but I will have to take 2 minutes to introduce you. Okay, now it is the turn of Dr. Paresh B. Joshi. Paresh B. Joshi is a PhD, is a professor, Department of English at South Gujarat University, Veer Narmad South Gujarat University, Surat. He has received 2 prestigious awards, Vedant International Educator Excellence Awards 2021 by the Vedant Foundation and Quality Excellence Award, and 221 in Teaching and Training by Indian Quality Assurance Council in collaboration with Indian Society for Training and Development, Vadodara chapter. He has 19 years of teaching experience. His areas of specialization are English literature, applied linguistics, English language teaching, folk literature, and soft skills, among others. He is a recognized PhD guide with Vid Narmad South Gujarat University. 7 students have completed their PhD, and 4 students are pursuing their PhD. He gives his services as a PhD referee, a subject expert in interviews and scrutiny committees to various universities of India. His biodata is comparatively long, and uh, he has 19 years of experience. That is what is important. And he must have noticed many things in his own students when teaching English literature and how they prepare for an exam like NET exam. So I hand over to Dr. Paresh Joshi to speak on something. Uh, his his subject is NEP 2020, on which he is going to speak. So welcome, sir, and I hand over to Dr. Paresh Joshi, sir. Please.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Uh, it is nice to hear from you. And when a senior academic like Dave sir, when he introduces you, it is all the more honorsome. I think, am I audible, visible, sir? Or is my audio visual all right?
Yes, sir. You are
Okay.
audible and visible.
So I think I would begin my session with a sense of gratitude to ASPI University as a whole, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Honorable Head of the Department, Professor Popat, Dave sir, Department of English, Sardar Patel University keeps organizing meaningful programs like this. This is, to me, a very interesting initiative where this young, rising, growing academics would be given guidance on the iconic examination now for lecturership, NET. And now we understand that NET is not only for the qualification as an assistant professor, it also is going to act as an examination for PhD program. So with the passage of time, NET is becoming increasingly important. If you want to be a researcher, let's say JRF, or assistant professor, or your doctoral research. Now, for an examination like this, if we systematically prepare, if we have a regular guidance, that always adds to the preparedness of the students. I was also told that there's an overwhelming response to this initiative by Department of English. I, in fact, welcome all the students aspiring to crack NET to this discourses. So when we say national education policy, it's something that we've all heard about. It's something that is being discussed in every quarters of education, be it teaching fraternity, be it, say, admin. Everyone talks about it, but then many of us don't really actually go to the policy document and read it. Majority of the times we depend on what we hear from others. That, well, national education policy is X, national education policy is Y. There are X provisions, there are Y provisions. It would be a game changer. It is, all kinds of interesting bites that you hear from your teachers, sometimes in the news, sometimes in the political discourses, sometimes in academic discourses. So the first thing that I'll advise everyone sitting here, my first assignment on the first day, I think I'm the opening batsman. I'm opening this entire initiative, which is meant for guiding young minds towards preparing net set examination. I think before I go to the nitty-gritties of the policy, within the given time, I don't know how much I'll be in a position to discuss, but it's, for example, there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts even to NAT examination. Similarly, a lecture like this will not make you an expert in national education policy. This approach where we're looking for shortcuts, we're looking for, a lot of us believe that reading MCQs, multiple choice questions can help you crack NET examination. So none of this is true. Please remember, you will have to be thorough. When you prepare for NET examination, you'll have to look at literature. When you say you'll have to look at literature, you'll have to look at literature thoroughly. You begin with, say, Anglo-Saxons and come down all the way to 21st century. If it is theory, for example, you'll have to begin with Plato, Aristotle, and come all the way down to new historicism and trends beyond. If you're looking at literature, you'll have to look at English literature, you'll have to look at literature written in English across Indian literature in English, for example. So I would advise every aspiring student to be thorough. Don't pick up books which are primarily MCQ based. Well, they are a help. They can help you a great deal. Once you are thorough with the English literature and various aspects of literature and language. My concern at the moment is to discuss national education policy. It would be interesting if we begin the session by some icebreakers, simple questions. I'd love if some of you respond and we build discourses, monologues. Majority of the times are boring. If I keep speaking, it'll create a lot of intellectual load. Your brain would be eating into neurons and you'll get exhausted. I would just coin this first question as an icebreaker, and I would wish some of you respond to this question. What is NEP 2020 in your eyes? What it is and how it'll change the landscape of education in India. I'd love if some of you respond to this question. I'd love to know these young minds and their take on national education policy. This would also tell me what aspect of policy I should discuss, because it'll give me a glimpse of what you know. And if some of these responses give me glimpses about what you know, I may not bore you with discussing what you already know. So I can read Sarjugiri Goswami. He is my own student here from the department. On my screen, Jinal Patel, Mohit iPhone. An online class looks like a digital graveyard when you read the nameplates, but you don't see the faces. So I'd love if some of you have a good bandwidth and you keep your cameras on for some time so that I experience the human interaction. This is completely digital, completely lifeless at the moment. Can some of you respond?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So, in my perspective, new education policy, it would be kind of changer if it will be working in its right track. Because so far we have been getting the kind of education which actually was not designed by the Indian people. Actually, we were just following the education which were designed by the British Western educations, and that we were just lacking. And then now, from now on, it was kind of initiation that to design education in completely new form, which can enhance the Indian people's understanding, and it can make so many things lucid to understand. And apart from that, I would say that it is also merging so many subjects together. There are integrated courses as well. So earlier it used to be kind of one course, one liner course. The one person has selected English literature, so he cannot go with science and commerce. He will have to be interacting with English literature only. So that kind of boundaries has been broken now. So students can go through uh, any of any of the things and any things that the students like, and it is actually, I would say that it's the kind of new way to uh, getting students with their potential. So I
Oh,
like that kind of thing about education policy. So
nice.
in that case, I appreciate that education policy, sir.
All right. Anyone else? As far as I see, there are about 6 participants. I think few more would join in, but we still have Khushi, Mohit, Jinal on my screen. And if some of you can keep your videos on, as I said, and experience the human interaction. Uh, when you talk, when you communicate, feedback is very important. Uh, and thank you, Jimal, for making yourself visible. It feels that now human interaction, although yes, initially I could see Dave sir, but now I have
Sir,
you there. Yes. Anyone else?
ma'am,
Any initial? Yes, sir.
they have joined from YouTube,
Okay, so
so
this
they
is
will
live
not be
on
able to
YouTube. Is
answer.
that so?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's very nice. All right. So, anyone else trying to respond to this? At least from those who are in this room, people in YouTube will not be able to respond. I know. Any initial takes on national education policy and how it is going to transform education as we move on?
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Sir, I think so that it will prepare our current generation or the youth to meet the challenges, global challenges for the present and the future.
Okay. Fine. All right. So I think now, with the permission of the organizers, I'll share my presentation. My plan is I would first discuss the context within which this entire policy was conceptualized. And then I would actually go to the policy document and would take you through the policy document itself, rather than just uh, discussing my response or my ideas. I would love to take you to the policy document itself. So initially, I am sharing my PowerPoint, and then I would go to the policy document itself. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
When we say national education policy, we're talking about a document which emerged out of a very, very rigorous exercise. Few facts that all of you know: it was led by Honorable Kasturi Ranganji, somebody who has an immense reputation in academia primarily. The first statement that I would make about a National Education Policy 2020 is that the policy is now understanding the context of education in India. Right from 1949 onwards, we had a number of policy documents and commissions. Majority of them looked at the present education and then, tried to, in some way, add a few things and change a few things from the available perceptions. For the first time, there is this policy which understands the Indian context, the cultural facts, the social factors. And then it is conceptualized to serve to this cultural requirements, social requirements. And therefore, it is said that National Education Policy 2020 is rooted into Indian ethos. For the first time, Indian knowledge tradition, Indian knowledge texts, Indian education, these rich knowledge tradition has been kept as the root, as the focal point while conceptualizing the entire policy document. You will also have to consider that while working on this particular document, lex feedback from all stakeholders are invited. The conceptions of this document were put online for the public reception. And as I said, lex of feedback from academia and other stakeholders were invited. They were screened, and then majority of them, which were the suggestions which had some substance, were accommodated. So we say that it is a giant step in decolonizing Indian education. I mean, all of us know, I don't want to go in deep details about what was Macaulay's plan and how it worked, how English education, when it was introduced in 1835, was primarily a cultural imperialistic plan, which was implemented to ensure that this education, which Macaulay was introducing, was primarily introduced to make us doubt our own culture, make us doubt our own cultural ethos. And this is already in public domain. All of us have known that the harm Macaulay education has done. I think, when English education was introduced in 1835, I mean, there were efforts from quite early, 1817 onwards, a lot of discussions took place. And finally, in 1835, English education was introduced in India. And then when English education was introduced in India, systematic education in India was also introduced alongside. And, according to Honorable Kapil Kapoor ji, I think those students who are listening to me, I believe, should read Indian Knowledge System, 3 volumes by Honorable Kapil Kapoor ji, to understand, and that is when you will be in a position to understand how significantly this policy is rooted in Indian ethos. And Professor Kapoor tells that when systematic education was introduced in India, there were as many as 250,000, close to 3 lakh gurukuls and pathshalas were functioning. And these gurukuls and pathshalas were the centers of knowledge. They imparted, knowledge, not confined to few spaces. We look at education today in arts, commerce, and science. Many of these gurukuls were teaching vocational skills like metal making, jewelry making. Many of these gurukuls were teaching medicine, surgery. So in that sense, knowledge and education, when you look at it, this education was given in totality. In India, we have never divided knowledge. We have always looked at knowledge as an interconnected whole. And that is how all gurukuls in that sense were multi-dimensional, were looking at holistic learning, all of these provisions which are made in national education policy were being implemented in those days. And therefore, NEP, when we say national education policy, is a giant step towards decolonizing Indian education. And Macaulay very categorically in his minutes write that, when he was introducing English education, he wanted to create people Indian in blood and English in taste. But this policy promises to create people Indian in blood and Indian in taste in that sense. This obviously is the first education policy of independent India, comprehensive reforms aimed at Indianization of education to actualize the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. In fact, the policy aims to, so the very, very interesting provisions is the policy aims to invest, say, about 6% of the GDP at the earliest. So that is another significant recognition of the fact that education is a very, very important aspect of governance. And, now, for example, we're investing close to 2% of the GDP. About 6% of the GDP would mean the institutions, educational institutions, will have ample resources to ensure that the provisions made in national education policy are implemented, because for implementing provisions like horizontal and vertical mobility, you would need resources, you would need human resources, you would need infrastructure, you would need financial resources. So the policy recognizes that, and that, I believe, is one of the very, very futuristic conception that more and more resources, financial resources will be invested. Ministry of Human Resource Development has been renamed as Ministry of Education. So that is another benchmark to see that there would now be Ministry of Education, which used to fall under Human Resource Development. So you have a dedicated Ministry for Education. In fact, you should also take note of the fact be appearing for the examination. For the first time in independent India, now you have Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. A dedicated ministry which will be looking at skill development, which also is a very, very significant area which national education policy dwells on. The policy also looks at, there is expansion of education happening in India. The gross enrollment ratio is exponentially growing. And the policy envisions to bring this gross enrollment ratio to about 50%, which is close to say 24 to 27 right now. So these are some larger paradigm shifts. When you talk of 6% of the GDP, when you have a dedicated ministry for education, when you have a dedicated ministry for skill development and entrepreneurship, a right to education is implemented. But until class 12 is the vision of national education policy. So the very significant paradigm shifts which would take place in national education policy is, as I said, Ministry of Education. A dedicated ministry would make education a big priority, and then you will have a whole government machinery looking at education along with other governing bodies. And when we will go into the policy document, we would realize that there are various commissions and various associations which are planned in the policy documents. Flexibility, multiple entry, and multiple exit. These are big paradigm shifts that I'm talking about. Later, as we move in, we would go into the finer aspects. And as I said, we would actually go to policy document and see some of the very, very significant provisions which are made. But, when we look at education, or when we look at education before NEP 2020, what it lacked was flexibility. If it, for example, vertical and horizontal mobility was restricted, if I use a proper word, there was no sufficient flexibility. Now, multiple entry and multiple exit, as all of you would know, is something that is complete reconceptualization of the award of the degree. Like, think of days when somebody starts graduation, completes first year, and due to unavoidable circumstances, that boy or girl it comes to such a situation, such a point that he has to leave education. An unfortunate happening, but if that happened, he would have a mark sheet of first year, BA, BCom, BSc, whatever degree that he joined and could not complete. Multiple entry and exit as a conceptualization, a paradigm shift, which would allow that if a student, for example, completes 1 year and then discontinues education, in the first year, he will get a certificate. So if he's doing BA in English, he'll get certificate in English. If he leaves education at the second year, he would be given a diploma. So that allows you to exit your degree program, and if you have given 1 year, and if you have earned sufficient credits for that year, you would be given different certificates. Certificate, diploma, PG diploma, honors. So now that within itself is a conceptualization where nobody is left without a proper certification at every exit point. Earlier, an exit meant that you will not get a proper degree. For example, you get BA at the end of completion of 3 years. Now, after the introduction of CBCS, at the end of your 6th semester, you will get a BA degree. Here you do 2 semesters, complete 1 year, and you get a certificate. Complete 2 years, and you get a diploma. So that is multiple exit. Entry would mean, if you have certain credits in certain other programs, you will be able to enter a degree program or a PG program, at a later stage. And frameworks for this are being created. Look, when we are having this interaction on National Education Policy 2020, almost all universities of India have implemented this policy. Almost all state governments have done circulars for implementation of national education policy. And you should be very happy that the entire India is now inventing ways in which there is optimum implementation of the provisions and conceptualizations done in National Education Policy 2020. So another big paradigm shift is holistic and integrated learning. Now, holistic learning as an idea is, again, not a new idea. We, as I was saying at the beginning, before the English education, we had gurukuls which were giving integrated knowledge, which were giving holistic knowledge. It was not an education where somebody gets, say, a BA and has no idea about the basic life sciences. So, if you read policy document, I think in chapter 10, within the policy document itself, there's an interesting citation, and I'll take you to that when I go to the policy document myself. But in Kadambari's, Banavat's Kadambari, it was stated that good education comprises expertise in 64 arts. इसका मतलब ये है कि अच्छी शिक्षा वो 64 कलाओं में पारंगत होना है. So within Indian knowledge tradition, integrated knowledge and holistic learning already made. And now we have a whole new idea which is known as liberal arts, for example, where you are taught economics, you are taught statistics, you are taught some subjects of science. So in that sense, holistic learning, when it becomes a reality, a person who gets a degree would not have the limited knowledge of the core field that he has chosen, but he would also have an integrated knowledge, which is essential for performing the multiple roles that market requires. And therefore, holistic learning is, I will give you an example. Like say you are a student of science, fine, and you are a student of chemistry, you are doing experiments in different chemicals in the laboratory. But then if you were taught, say, commerce and you're given knowledge of stock market, within this holistic integrated learning, these provisions would be possible. So then you develop wisdom to invest money in the market. And let's say we are in summer, a wise investor would think of investing money in companies which manufacture air conditioner and refrigerators because the demand is going to go high. If a science student knows this, along with his contribution as somebody who is an expert in chemicals, he would also need to earn. And if he has studied commerce and stock market properly, he might not invest in the companies which manufacture refrigerators and air conditioners. But all these cooling devices, refrigerators and air conditioners require a compressor. And that compressor is made by a different company. So it would then be wise to invest in the compressor which every company would buy, and their stocks would give you more returns than the companies which make or manufacture air conditioners or refrigerators. So now this is a simple example of how integrated learning allows you to perform diverse roles that would be required in the kind of marketplace that you're staying. So holistic and integrated learning, as I said, very significant paradigm shift, and that paradigm shift would depend on how well we are in a position to devise our syllabuses and how well we are in a position to accommodate holistic learning and integrated learning. Ancient, eternal Indian knowledge idea of Bharat, knowledge, jnana, wisdom, pragya, and truth, satya. Now, these are the paradigms, these are the ideas of Indian knowledge system around which this policy is built. And the policy document, is, when you read this policy document, as you can see, this policy document in the slide, we are going to go into the finer aspects of this document and look at various provisions. Within the document itself, the policy promises to see that by 2040, Indian education system would be second to none. Now, when you look at the best education systems, you will see Finland on the top, you would see Korea, you'd see Germany, you'd see Malaysia. So, India is looking at creating an education system which would be second to none by 2040. We're already in 2024. And we would also see that the policy has made provisions and has given the implementation plans. Some interesting facts and figures that you should need to know. The Union Cabinet on July 29, 2020 replacing the 1986 National Education Policy. So this policy passed, the Union Cabinet passed this policy on July 29, and it was replaced. The policy has been, this policy 1986 has been replaced. The vision of the policy is transformation of India into an equitable, vibrant knowledge society rooted in Indian ethos. I think this is very important. I told you in the beginning that this is a policy which understands Indian context. This is a policy which understands the socio-cultural realities of India. This is a policy that is rooted in Indian ethos. And when we say Indian ethos, we're talking about a long-lasting knowledge tradition, that has survived for thousands of years. I think we as Indians need to know this, that of all the civilizations that this earth saw, Mesopotamia, Egypt, all of these civilizations are no more. Only Indian civilization has survived for this thousands of years, and it survived primarily because it is a civilization which is built on, a whole tradition of continuous knowledge texts. And I borrow from Professor Kapoor, and he says that this Indian knowledge tradition, the texts and the scholars put together flow like the pious water of Ganges. You name a field and you have a first text on it. The first text on grammar and phonetics, for example, is Panini's Ashtadhyayi. Equally, on every aspect of knowledge. So, that is time for us as Indians, in the first place, to understand the fact that, we, right from Vedic times till 1835, when cultural imperialists, made us believe that our traditions are inferior to Western traditions, and they succeeded. But what we really need to understand is the fact that Indian ethos, when we look back, has the validation of fact that every new idea that has become a big invention today has primarily been Indian. Look, I'm not being a classicist who is trying to say that, well, we have invented zero and we've done everything. No. Even pragmatically thinking, now you are talking about a knowledge tradition which has generated every significant idea on which this entire civilizational growth is taking place. And therefore, we will have to understand the fact that when you have an education system which is looking back into that rich knowledge texts, it will help us create a new original texts. And what it will do is it'll make you a confident Indian who has confidence in its own traditions. What cultural imperialism did was that it made us doubt our own tradition. It made us doubt our own, own ideas, our own culture. So, India was a Vishwa Guru, and it will very soon reclaim its position as a Vishwa Guru. And this policy is something that will help us reclaim our position. We will once again teach the rest of the world. And I think COVID was the time when India emerged as a leader and taught the rest of the world the ideas of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. You know, we helped many countries in terms of medicine when we were facing crisis of the worst magnitude. You know, as students, you should know that as many as 20 Indian knowledge texts were translated in English. Majority of thinkers have created their theories, you know, from Indian ideas. Chomsky, Levi-Strauss, they are the big examples. So the vision is transformation of India in equitable and vibrant knowledge society rooted in Indian ethos. These are the guiding pillars, the policy, access, equity, quality. Now, these are the words that I've taken from the Ministry of MHRD's document, you know. So some of these could become your MCQs, and therefore I have taken these facts and figures. The guiding pillars of National Education Policy 2020 includes access to every human, irrespective of their caste, creed, their financial position, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Core values of the policy: development of cognitive skills, foundational and higher order social and emotional skills, which would mean soft skills. And as I said, we have now a dedicated ministry, which is Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So we as a nation have realized the importance of skills, and therefore we have Skill India as a national mission, launched by Honorable Prime Minister himself. And sometimes when you look at our present education, we feel that there is a disconnect between the campus and the corporate. So what we do on the campuses, what we teach on the campuses doesn't perfectly fit to the requirements of the market. If you look at the HR reports of Indian unicorns, Reliance, and Wipro, and Tatas and Birlas, majority of them are facing the issues of the skilled workforce, skilled manpower. You know, why skill development is important. And, you know, National Education Policy 2020 looks at skills as one of the very, very significant elements of education. And if somebody's audio should be muted if that's creating some kind of disturbance. Dalai sir, is everything all right? My audio, video, can you see my slides? I just wanted a feedback. Should I go on like this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so everything is all right, you know, because when you're taking an online session, you don't know really what is happening in the audience. Let's go forward. So within core values, development of cognitive and social and emotional skills. So this policy document has attached a great amount of significance to skill education and vocational education. And the first fact that you should keep in mind is, you know, a dedicated ministry, a after the independence, the first time in the history of India, you have Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Now, I was saying why skills are an important factor in education. You know, I referred to National Education Policy document talking about Chauset Kalas. I was also talking about the Gurukuls being the centers of highest holistic and integrated learning, where skills were an equally important part. Now, campus corporate disconnect primarily is resulting from the lack of essential soft skills in the students sometimes. That an electronic engineer has a great amount of ideas. He is a very good electronic engineer, but he is not in a position to convince the interviewer about his skills because he lacks in communication skills. So when we talk of soft skills, we're talking about skills like communication skills, leadership, team building, interpersonal skills, negotiation skills, positive attitude, critical thinking. Now, these are the skills which will have to be integrated in the syllabus. So along with cognitive skills, the policy attaches great amount of importance to soft skills. And the reason for that is, providing a skilled manpower to this, exponentially fast economic growth. We are the 5th largest economy today. And as we move on, by 2030, we're going to be world's 3rd largest economy. Now, if you want to continue to grow economically, you need to have your industries growing. To sustain or to propel industrial growth, you will need to continuously supply skilled manpower. And the responsibility of supplying skilled manpower is on the shoulders of educational institutions. And therefore, this policy looks at skill development as a very, very significant element of the education process, both in schools and colleges, both in primary and higher education. Goals: universalization of pre-primary education, attainment of foundational literacy, numeracy by 2025. Now, even when you're associated with higher education, you will have to see that this policy is not just talking about higher education. National education policy is trying to revamp education right from pre-primary to higher education. And when you look at pre-primary education, pre-primary education is not sufficiently governed. I mean, anyone opens a playhouse in the house today. So now, all of these playhouses, institutions involved in pre-primary education will be registered. A trained manpower would be supplied into this pre-primary education. And when you look at education, pre-primary is probably the most important important time for that formative young child whose brain development begins in this pre-primary education center. The goal of policy is also the attainment of foundational literacy and numeracy. So foundational literacy and numeracy, if you want to survive in this world today, you require this basic literacy and basic numeracy. You should be able to calculate. the money that you give and money that you get back from a particular counter in a shop or a hotel, or if you're a theater buying a ticket. Reforms in school education. As I said, this policy is not just looking at higher education for its development, but this policy is also looking at total transformation of school education. We're talking about pre-primary. As we will go to the policy documents for seeing some highlights, I'll also take you to the areas where the policy is recommending huge investments in teachers' training. It's when your teacher is trained sufficiently to teach, he will be in a position to teach those young minds. And a lot of times when we see in self-finance schools and colleges, many a time, not all the time, but many a time you will have unqualified staff teaching. Now that creates a dangerous situation because then, generations and generations of learners would be trained by people who themselves are not trained as to how to teach. So curriculum is again a very, very significant part of teaching and learning process and pedagogy. So both curriculum and pedagogy in primary schools, schools are conceptualized in a way that they would go through 360-degree transformation. And, this entire structure, 5 + 3 + 3 + 4, the existing structure is going to be completely redesigned into 5 + 3 + 3 + 4. Exam and assessment system overhaul, equally important aspect along with curriculum pedagogy is examination, the assessment. It's when you have proper mechanisms for assessment in place, you will be in a position to assess the performance of the learner in an objective, in a very transparent way. It has increased focus in public investment, technology, integration, vocational, and adult education. So, when you say public investment, government would pump in, say, huge financial resources. But as we move on, we would realize that it is when the society as a whole participates, it is a partnership between the government and the society. And that is how public investment becomes a very significant aspect of education. Technology integration. We know that technology is redefining human life. ChatGPT, for example, AI is transforming the way we exist. And we have still not seen even 1% of application of AI. It's just the beginning in the last 5 years. AI is becoming a completely a dazzling phenomenon. We don't know what it is going to do. And AI, for example, is challenging the very existence of teachers because it does everything. It writes assignments, it writes poetry, it does proofreading, it does places, it does magical things. And I don't know, we are very soon going to even outsource creativity. That's going to be dangerous. You will be shocked to know, on this Kindle, for example, there are more than 300 books where Chat GTP is a co-author. Can you just imagine that you have an AI program, primarily a digital program, which is a co-author of a book. And therefore, in research, for example, many reputed journals have banned the use of ChatGTP. Not that they are not accepting ChatGTP as a co-author, because when AI was introduced, a lot of people brought in ChatGTP as a co-author. Because guess what? ChatGTP writes your research papers also. As I said, if you want to write a poem, you say write a poem on moon, it'll write a wonderful poem. You say that I want X word change, it'll change and give you. So integration of technology is going to be a very, very significant part of education, and there is going to be a dedicated consortium which is technology integration. I think that's a wonderful provision. Vocational and adult education, both vocational and adult education, they are conceptualized to see that there are sufficient jobs and there are sufficient entrepreneurs, because then, if you just create job seekers and not sufficient job creators, it is going to create a serious, huge imbalance. The next big provision in national education policy is curriculum load reduction. When we look at the young boys and girls going to school in their bag, you will see their bags hanging out as if some truck with some raw material or some goods is going. And sometimes those bags, which are full of books, are challenging the spinal health of young children. So curriculum load reduction, it would focus on highly essential content, holistic discussion, and analysis-based learning. So this also is a very, very big provision in the policy document. And that policy document is full of these very promising changes. And I'm so happy discussing these changes with you. Revamping educational structure. So the entire structure of education aligned with 21st century goals, India's tradition, culture, and values. We are now talking about 21st century skills because 21st century has its own context. And those of us who are already skilled would need to be reskilled. For example, all of us who are skilled in IT, we will now have to learn and reskill ourselves in using AI, for example. So skilling and reskilling every time demands its own changes, and then therefore there would be when you look at UNESCO, for example, it has listed the goals, about 30 of them. So 21st century goals, and then India's tradition. I was talking about it in detail in previous slides. That it was Satyagraha who said that those who forget their history are condemned to repeat it. And we can safely make a statement that many of us have forgotten our traditions. The traditions Not all of them are healthy. We evolve. So traditions which are not progressive and regressive traditions can be discontinued. There's no doubt about it. But progressive traditions need to continue because these traditions are created by the society. And, it has that collective human conscience. The policy would also ensure that our cultural ethos are significantly highlighted and taught to the students. And most importantly, values. When we say values, to me, education, is amalgamation of three significant elements. The first is knowledge, undoubtedly. The second is skills, kaushalya, and the third is value, niti.
May I interrupt you for
Please.
2 minutes?
Yeah.
So it is about 12:27, 5-10 minutes more.
Is
Then
it?
there will be question answer session.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to complete it.
Okay.
So, revamping education structure would mean, I was talking about education is the amalgamation is the combination of three very significant elements: skills, knowledge, skills, and values. People with only knowledge would not be fitting into the market requirements. We've already talked about it. People with knowledge and skills and not sufficiently value oriented can misuse the knowledge and can use it for the destructive purposes. A lot of these terrorists are highly knowledgeable and highly skilled, but their ethical radar doesn't allow them to use skills at the right place. Fine. Therefore, equally important is values, and this policy puts a great importance on values. Integration of technology is something that we've talked about. School governance is another very, very significant point that we need to keep in mind. Quality education, impact on citizenship, societal equity and empowerment. Higher education, recommendation, multidisciplinary education, institutional autonomy, quality research promotion, professional development, technology integration. Now, all these are very larger game changers. Long-term impact, India as a global hub of skilled manpower by 2027. 2027, incidentally, is a benchmark Honorable Prime Minister has set for India becoming a developed country. So वो अमृत काल में हम already enter हो चुके हैं. Implementation, collective efforts of all stakeholders, including center, is going to be essential. I think, as Sir pointed out, I would now stop sharing my presentation. There were some ideas that I thought are the beginning. In fact, Sir, do I have 5 more minutes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would now quickly share with all of you the policy document itself, which can you see this document? So this, students who are listening to me, I would advise that you go to the website of the Ministry of Human Resource Development or if simply say National Education Policy 2020, it is a 64-page document, and it is an abridged policy provisions. The entire policy runs into more than 400 pages, but this is a 66-page document. The and the document is available in both Hindi and English. So uh, this actually is the policy document. It begins with introduction, a reach introduction. Part 1 is dedicated to school education, early childhood care, foundational literacy, and all that. Curriculum and pedagogy in schools, we're talking about it. Part 2, chapter 9 onwards, you have a discussion on education.
Higher education.
Higher education, yes. And I, in fact, was planning that I would discuss the third part is dedicated to other key areas of focus. And then part 4 talks about making it happen. So that would be implementation. So I thought I'd show you this document quickly enough so that this is how the entire school education would be reamed. We had 10 plus 2. Now that would be 4 plus 3 plus. In fact, the entire plan has been given. So download this document, read it. It's an interesting document, even if you are not a teacher. It is not a document which is meant for teacher. Every stakeholder of education should read this document. I think I would stop it here, and then we can have some questions if
So session is open for question answer. If you have any questions, please kindly put your question to the sir. See, on YouTube, it runs a little slow. So it will take 1 or 2 minutes for them to put the question.
okay,
So
we'll
we will
wait.
have to wait for them. We will have
In
to wait
case,
for them.
yeah.
Kushi, if you have any questions, if you have received any questions, please put them.
Yes, sir. Sir, there is a question that how can I start the preparation with paper 1 or paper 2?
That is not about
Yeah, sir, but there is a question from someone on the YouTube comment
So
section.
simple answer would be look at the syllabus of paper 1 and paper 2 and start reading. That's how you begin. Fine. And I think there would be dedicated lectures on the paper 1 and paper 2. There maybe they can be discussed in detail. But if somebody has a question on national education policy that I was dealing with right now, I would be happy to respond to that.
Okay, sir.
Any other question?
Sir, the next question is that do we need to go deep into the NEP 2020 in the context of the NET examination?
I think, yes, NAT would ask questions because this then largely is the part of the general knowledge. And we began with this session is because, as the stakeholders of education, you should know what are the provisions in national education policy. So my answer is yes.
Any other question, Kushi?
Yes, sir. There is a question that how questions can be asked in net examination related to NAP.
How kind of
Any MCQ question would be asked on what are the pillars, for example. Who was the chairperson of the committee which conceptualized the policy? Uh, I mean, you need to know the entire policy and the if not every aspect of it, some significant aspects. So, when we say what kind of questions, any question from the policy could be asked. You uh, cannot think of any important question, which is always, when we prepare, when we were students, yes, we used to ask our teachers. But I don't know, there could be question from any aspect of policy document.
Okay, sir. And so the next question is that which specific part of NAP should be taken into concern for the net?
Entire policy. Majority of the times, higher education, but then, yes, the policy is not dedicated to higher education alone. They may ask you questions on the larger, like, for example, holistic learning, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary education, multiple entry and exit, flexibility, vertical mobility, and quite a few terms which the policy uses, because then MCQ questions majority of the times focus on these facts and figures.
Any more questions?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Kushi. Sir,
Yeah,
NEP 2020 is a very wide term like modernism,
yes.
and from where to begin and where to end, and it cannot be covered in just 1 hour. But you made a very wonderful presentation,
So,
and whatever little you said, on behalf of our university, on behalf of the department and my colleagues, and on behalf of participants, I thank you for sharing your views or sharing your understanding of NEP 2020. Nice meeting you.
thank
And
you, sir. Thank
we
you.
did not know probably this document. Otherwise, we would have said that you speak only on higher education or primary education or something like that. And this course is going to be for 15 days. If need arises, we will contact you. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
last question, sir?
Huh.
Last question, sir.
There is one last question. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. There is one question that what are the limitations of NAP 2020?
Well,
You're asking a very
limitations have still not surfaced because we are still in the process of implementing it. But then, when it would be implemented during the implementation phases, these limitations would come. But if you look at in the larger context, the limitations or challenges, rather than limitation, the challenges would be for implementation, dealing with the mindset of stakeholders. At times, for making all the provisions a reality, you would need resources. That resources might not be available. But I see, there is an opportunity in every challenge, and therefore we should all try our best to see that majority of the provisions are taken into consideration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, I'm logging off, sir.
Thank you.
So, Andy. I think now we will meet for the.
We will meet for next session at 2:30. So we'll be here by 2:15 to 20, and we will start.